Okay, I think I can start. So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. It is a beautiful sunny day here in Brussels, like a great day to kickstart the third edition of European Green Infrastructure Day. Wow, we are already at the third edition. Seems like yesterday when we launched this, the first edition of this incredible event, which is very exciting. Is a great moment to discuss about greening our cities, transforming the built environment, integrating vegetation in urban areas. Today we have a very long and interesting day with 4 sessions dealing with where we will touch upon different topics. We will have this now session 1 starting at 10, session 2 at 11:15, session 3 after lunch at 2 o'clock, and session 4 at 3:15, before concluding remarks from our president, Professor Manfred Kohler, at 4:15. Let me just start perhaps from the end with thanking my colleagues Santa, Antonin, Esther, Matteo for helping me to organize this this event, and also now I think in total 23 speakers and moderators that have accepted our invitation to join to participate to this discussion. I'll leave the floor to my colleague Mariangiola Fabbri, then to moderate session 1. Thank you, Mariangiola. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Luigi. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. My name is Mariangiola Fabbri. I'm head of research at the Buildings Performance Institute of Europe. Some of you may know us as BPIE. It's shorter and easier to remember. I will be moderating this first session. Before starting doing this, just a couple of instructions and an explanation on how the session will go. We have four speakers. Each of them will give we'll have a short intervention, and then we will open the session for a Q&A. Please write your questions in the Q&A function, not in the chat, because I will be monitoring the Q&A, so all your questions have to go through there. Just a reminder also that the meeting is recorded and is also live on YouTube for those who are following there. Good morning. Now, let me just introduce the topic of this first panel and the speakers. This first session is about green, efficient, and solar powered, the key features of a sustainable building stock. And we have 4 great speakers. We have MEP Ciarán, who just joined us. Good morning. He's the rapporteur for the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive recast. And we know he's been very busy on this, and so we'll hear from him how it's going on. We have Dustin Gedge, who is urban diversity professional from the European Federation of Green Roofs and Walls. Good morning. Osenberg, policy advisor for Solar Power Europe. And as our last speaker, Luigi, Luigi Petito, the head of the Secretariat, that just welcomed all of us this morning. So the head of the European chapter of the Secretariat, the World Green Infrastructure Network. So with that, I welcome you again, and I give the floor to Ciarán. Ciarán, please. Good morning and welcome, and share your thoughts with us. As I explained before, I don't know if you joined just before or after I just said it. I will let every speaker speak and keep the Q&A until the end. Everyone has 5 minutes, but if you have to leave earlier, just let me know and we'll just ask you a couple of questions before that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I can stay with you for most of the next hour. And it's a real pleasure to join you this morning. And as you say, the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive is an important file in both decarbonising our buildings, but also in encouraging the transition to low carbon technologies and to improving our towns and cities and buildings for a greener future. And of course, we have the research on the contribution of green roofs, the contribution of photovoltaics, and we know what can be achieved. I mean, green roofs and walls can highly contribute to cutting CO2 emissions and the energy consumption of buildings across the Union, and it can support the goal of a decarbonised and efficient EU building stock by 2050. I would like to have gone further with the provisions on green infrastructure, but unfortunately, there was not enough support for this within the Parliament. But there is now a requirement in Article 7 of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive for new buildings to address climate through solutions like green infrastructure. And it's also important to remember that we're going through a biodiversity crisis, and green roofs and walls can make a substantial contribution to biodiversity, particularly thick green roofs that allow sufficient planting on top. And this can provide a habitat for various species, such as pollinators, while mitigating the effects of climate change, such as the urban heat island effect, thereby improving the resilience of our cities. And to talk about the urban heat island, 3 weeks ago, I remember meeting colleagues from Valencia. They said in March, it's already over 30 degrees in Valencia. And just in the headlines this morning, I see we hit 40 degrees on the Iberian Peninsula in the last few days. So the urban heat island effect is real, and it's not just 3 months of the year. It will be in the future 6 months of the year, if not longer. So we have to improve the resilience of our cities. We have to take steps to address this. There's a lot more I would have liked to do within this directive, but unfortunately it was out of scope, not just the green infrastructure, but the blue infrastructure as well. The capacity of our urban areas to address sustainable urban drainage, not just to tackle the CO2 in use of our buildings, but to really drill down into what buildings can do, in what we can do with the urban regeneration of our buildings, because we know that the most sustainable building is the building we already have. But look, I've spoken too long. I'm happy to take questions on this later on, and I look forward to hearing the other speakers.
Thank you very much, Ciarán. I already noted a couple of questions that your short speech triggered. Now to our next speaker, Dusty Gedge, urban biodiversity professional from the European Federation of Green Roofs and Walls. Dusty, I hear you have a presentation that you like, or a slide that you would like to share. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll towards the end of what I'm talking about, I'll share the images because they tell a story. I'd like to thank Ciarán actually, because he mentioned biodiversity, which is my interest, but over the 25 years that I've been involved in green roofs, I've had to deal with a lot of projects and thinking about how you can combine those two processes, which is the solar and the green roof. And in fact, what I'd like to try and get through to the audience today is that actually green roofs can help solar panels become more efficient, and solar panels can actually increase the biodiversity of a green roof. And this has been well documented in Switzerland and also in the United Kingdom. And I'm also would like to, towards the very end of my 5 minutes, talk about innovation, because there's some very interesting innovation, particularly coming out of Sweden and Norway. But generally in my work, we have solar energy people, we have green roof and biodiversity people, and sometimes, as is normal across this agenda, there's a kind of sometimes a silo thinking. And one of the interesting things about the green roof industry is obviously when the solar industry really started to blossom in Germany, which is the center of the green roof industry in Europe, is the industry developed processes to integrate the solar mounting into the green roof. So the green roof, for anybody who's technical there, becomes the ballasting mechanism. And as Ciarán referred, the deeper the substrate, the better it is for biodiversity. The deeper the substrate, the better it is for stormwater. The deeper the substrate, more evapotranspiration and more cooling of solar panels in terms of the microclimate around the panel. And essentially, way back in the late 1990s, I think it was in Karlsruhe in Germany, they recognized that a green roof can increase the efficiency of a solar panel by about 3%, which is a good thing. And also, when I get to the innovation in Switzerland, is they're using a process which uses a white substrate, and also in Switzerland, it snows a lot, and they're using vertical panels, which actually produce up to 10% more efficiency because of the reflected light from snow and the white substrate. And what I want to convince people here is it's not a case of one or the other, or you put one on the other. You try to combine those in an intelligent way to deliver for the nature restoration strategy, the energy strategy, and the blue strategy, which Ciarán referred to. And I would like to also end this, because I'm just going to quickly end this, is that there is potential for a lot of innovation in Europe in this field, because we actually lead this field in terms of how this is delivered using green roofs and solar together to deliver across the agenda. And I just want to finish up, if I may, very quickly sharing 3 slides to give you some visual stimulation about this subject. It's not working, I'm afraid. So I'm afraid it's not working because I had a computer collapse last week and I haven't got Zoom installed. But what I was going to show you is a very conventional green roof with solar panels, then a green roof, which is referred to as a biosolar roof. It delivers for renewable energy and biodiversity, not generic biodiversity. And if you could Google, if you're listening, bifacial solar panels, Switzerland, you will see this really innovative approach that is coming out of Switzerland. It's also coming out of Norway. It's not just the Swiss, which I think is the solution for the future, because 100% of the green roof is visible. It is visible to the light and not covered by panels because they're vertical. I'm going to do a video about this, which I share with the World Green Infrastructure Network, which viewers might like to have. Thank you very much for inviting me and listening.
Thank you very much. Jan Osenberg, Policy Advisor of the Solar Power Europe. What is your view on?
Yes, hello, Mariangiola, and hello to all the other participants. In fact, only when I prepared for this session, I realized how amazing green roofs actually are. And then I had a conversation with a mounting structure company, which also does green roofs, to dive a little bit deeper into what this actually means. So today we have around 10% of EU buildings that are equipped with solar technology. We have frontrunners like the Netherlands, where already 25% of the buildings are equipped. And just from the general market growth, we expect that by 2030, around 30% of the buildings in Europe will be equipped with solar. However, the majority of these installations today is on buildings in rural areas and on standalone buildings. And these, as you will know, are not the primary target for green roofs. Green roofs unfold most of their potential in cities in cities. And in cities, you generally have the problem that renters or several parties within one buildings have to agree on installing a solar panel, which really slows down the development. Now, complementing to what Dusty has just said, we really agree that this is not a conflict between the two, let's call them technologies or solutions. For example, we see that in France, the solar standard there requires that either you have a green roof or a solar panel. But we really see we have two crises. We have an environmental crisis and the problem of climate change. And in fact, we really believe that green roofs and solar do work together with each other. And let me just quickly share two examples of how they can work. These are on the right. You should see the vertical solar panels that also Dusty referred to. They are from Norway. And there, as you see, have the full light coming to the ground, feeding the plants. And then you also have like traditional mounting structures here, which are around 30 centimeters above the ground, so that the plants can flourish a little bit more. These are solutions that are becoming more and more present. And to go a little bit more into the details, so solar works very well both on extensive and on intensive green roofs. You have systems that are either mounted 5 centimeters above the ground or larger, 30 centimeters above the ground. And especially in the systems that are mounted with a higher distance from the ground, you get a more distributed growth of the plants underneath. The seeds spread further. And it's not only in front of the panel that the plants grow. Of course, we must consider that there's some maintenance required, so you have to increase the distance between the panels, which leads to lower amount of kilowatt, a lower capacity installed on these buildings. Yeah, so I think that's on the technical side, and on where the market is developing, we see a very strong impact of solar standards. So as they are planned in the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, meaning that every building must be equipped with solar panels, see a strong impact of laws like this on green roof development, because suddenly owners of a green roof will start to think about also adding a solar panel to their green roof. And for example, in Baden-Württemberg, this is already showing some effect, where we see really a strong increase of green roofs in combination with solar panels.
Thank you, Jan. Luigi, this is our last intervention before I start firing my questions. Please, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mariangiola. Thank you, Jan, Dusty, and Ciarán for joining us, for your intervention. Very interesting ideas. Mariangiola, I'll try to be short so that we can have a bit of debate and the discussion after. The point I want to make here is rather simple. I would like to underline that this agenda is happening. So this is my message. Ciarán, with the energy performance, I mean, from a policy perspective, because my job here is I'm a lobbyist. I've been pushing to advance this agenda of greening cities for now since a few years. I think the work that Ciarán has put into the Energy Performance of Building Directive as far as the green infrastructure are concerned is amazing. Ciarán, I know that you try to push, and we've been working on this since the report preceding the PBD, and including some elements into the policy debate. But I think expanding the scope of the directive to include nature-based solution, including requirements, as you said, for new and building undergoing major renovation, to consider, to work, to provide, to address climate adaptation inter alia through green infrastructure, including, like, very important, a definition of the multiple benefits of green infrastructure into such an important and relevant piece of legislation. I think this is amazing. We couldn't imagine to get this before, and I hope that we will be able all together, and I see here alignment among stakeholders to keep this through this complex discussions and process that you will have to go through. We will have to go through, because I think this is important with the member states and with the concerns for several aspects, Ciarán. But in general, what is in there is really powerful. The second point is what is going on with the nature restoration law. In the nature restoration law, the European Union proposed first ever, first of its kind, a mandatory target for greening cities, for greening urban areas. This is something amazing. We have net, so by 2030, the Commission proposes to have no net no loss by 2030, increase of greening spaces by 2040, 3% by 2040, 5% by 2050, including ensuring that this increase in green spaces is happening in relation to the built environment, in relation to building. So there is the concept of integrating vegetation in the built environment. Ciarán, this is a wonderful hook. This is another super important piece of legislation that indicates the path. Okay, there is a direction. The third super important regulatory file that is under the revision and is pushing de facto this agenda is the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive. You all know we have a directive that was 32 years old and is now under revision. A directive that, because it was so old, didn't include at all concepts such as stormwater overflow or runoff. Probably 32 years ago, we had cities and urban areas didn't have to address these issues. But now we are confronted. The cities are confronted to this problem, and we have a directive that invites member states and local authorities to develop integrated urban wastewater treatment plan. And in this plan, the priority needs to be given to solutions, to green solution over gray solution. So again, there's no specific reference to green roof in the directive, but the concept, Ciarán, you mentioned before, of decentralized stormwater management or sustainable water management is there, and we need to keep it through the difficult revision of this directive. It is not finished here. We had the revision of Pollinator initiative, so we have other policy guidance and guidelines produced by the European Commission for local authorities, which are not mandatory, but invite cities, local authorities to look into increased biodiversity and make cities more permeable and help cities to bring out the loss of biodiversity, which is possibly the crisis of all the crises. I mean, we are living very different times. And then we have some other, let's call it more soft, but very important files. Bauhaus initiative. So all the elements related to which are not we have not a regulatory power, if you want, but still promote the development of green infrastructure, of green spaces in cities, because of also their capacity to make our cities more inclusive, to create space for recreation. You know, de facto, to use billions of square meters that are on top of our buildings to transform our cities, to make our cities healthier, greener, wealthier as well, and make the citizens happy. So I'd like to conclude this short intervention, Mariangiola, by saying I also see all this. So from a policy perspective, this is going on, this is happening. I mean, we have broken the silo approach. There is this holistic process that is going on, but also people is interested. I mean, yesterday I was at the Eurocities European conference in Ghent. There were 70, 80 with Dusty, actually. We were there together discussing biosolar installation. There were 70, 80 cities from across Europe interested, and we had a lovely debate. There were questions about this. 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was in Poland to discuss in front of 150 architects, designer, and we were discussing legislation initiative that are popping up everywhere, also in Poland, to push this to advance this agenda. So I think if we get it right, especially with bringing to land some of the important pieces of legislation that are on the table, we can really do something transforming our cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi, and thank you, everyone. Now we open our Q&A session. As a reminder to the participant, please write your questions into the Q&A. I will follow and keep track of it and ask your questions to our speakers. I will start with a few questions on my own while our audience think about theirs. And my first question is for Ciarán, is related to many things that all the speakers mentioned. And yourself, you mentioned the benefits of green roofs and walls to adapt cities to climate change impacts, and how you would have liked the BPIE directive to go beyond. What are other solutions that you see and would support the objective of climate adaptation and make cities more resilient? And if not in the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, could we find other avenues, maybe some of those that Luigi has mentioned, where this could happen?
It's a really good question, and I think Luigi touched on two legislative issues: the urban wastewater treatment directive, and then the strategy, the new European Bauhaus strategy, which is not a legislative file, but which actually I think does have an influence over at a high level over European investment. I think it's worthwhile looking at almost any European Union file and teasing out the impact that that file can have on our towns and cities. I mean, I think the European Commission has traditionally been reluctant to engage with urban policy because it likes to engage at a member state level. But I think even within DG Regio, there is an interest in cities. And I know I sit on the Energy Committee of the Parliament, and I sit on the Transport Committee of the Parliament. And many of these files have a potential impact on cities. For instance, the file on the trans-European transport networks, there's a focus on urban nodes, and there's a focus on ensuring that that active mobility is facilitated, in other words, walking and cycling. And there's real potential there to look at transport and mobility and encourage the green modes of transport. So I would say we should be looking at all of these different files, the Renewable Energy Directive, the Energy Efficiency Directive, and look at the scope for the decarbonization of our neighborhoods, of our cities, and the role for green and indeed blue infrastructure in facilitating this. And also the circular economy approach at a European level, which has, as Luigi said, it references sustainable urban drainage, treating wastewater, treating even rainwater on site to stop flooding by retaining water on deep green roofs, but in cleaning water through swales and through drainage channels that have vegetation that naturally purify that water before it goes into a concrete pipe. So I would advocate that we should look at all legislative files, and within many of them, if not most of them, there is potential to push green infrastructure, to push nature-based solutions. And these high-level strategies around the circular economy are really bringing ideas that were quite niche into the mainstream. I mean, the work, the cradle-to-cradle approach from Braungart and McDonough, which I read 10, 15, 20 years ago, suddenly these kind of documents are finding their way into Berlaymont. They're finding their way into the centers of decision-making in Brussels. And I certainly think, while perhaps it's not an open door, there certainly is a willingness to look at these kind of solutions. So I really think we should push at that door and make sure it is fully open. And I think the environment can gain, but also the economy can gain, and there are social benefits as well.
Thank you. I have a question for Dusty. You mentioned that there is still silo thinking between the green roof industry and the solar industry in certain instances and in certain places. What do you see as the major barriers or the obstacles for the implementation of these solutions as for overcoming these barriers? Because it seems from what I hear that on one hand there are some difficulties, but there is a lot going on the ground. There's a lot of things that are happening that could be an excellent case to be brought to the attention also of the policymakers to maybe help overcoming some of this silo thinking.
I just want to, because I enjoyed what Jan showed. I don't think there's any silo thinking between the solar industry and the green roof industry. I think there is, when you get down to a development scale, the professional consultants are often siloed about what they're trying to do. And Jan made the point that if you're going to have a good green roof with solar panels on it, you know, if the solar energy guy wants to maximize the energy, you can't really have a good green roof. So there's a compromise there. And that's more in the professional consultancy class. But the point that you make there, and I understand how the Commission works, and I understand how the EU works, because I sat on the working group for ecosystem services and nature-based solutions, you know, way back when. But what my experience in my own city, which is London, is when you make high-level London strategic policy, that starts to filter down to the districts, and that then starts to get the consultants having to come out of the silos and think in a more constructive way. And so I'm very positive and proactive about that, but it really is generally always policy-led, down to what is actually written in planning permissions, as we say in England, at a district level. And I think there is a lot of transition going on, that we need to combine these technologies, and I think it has to be led from you know, the planning system, which is led from the policy system, would be my view.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions from the audience, and I'll start with the last one I received, because I think it might be relevant, and you and Jan might be able to answer this. Daniel Pakura writes, there seems to be a tendency towards promoting green roofs that needs thick substrates. What about buildings and structure that cannot structurally withstand that? Is there any interest for greening solutions that can thrive on thin substrates? Can any of you answer this question?
Well, I mean, you know, deep and shallow is an issue, but you know, if you go to most cities where, most countries where we have a good codes of practice, is, you know, a thin system which is 20 millimeters is not fit for purpose. It's as simple as that. And there's lots of those systems going up. In the UK, it's 60 mil minimum. In Germany now it's 80 mil. In some cities it's 100 millimeters. In my context, and in an extensive green roofs, which is where a lot of the solar will go on, is really we need 100 to 150 millimeters. That is a good depth. Now, I don't want to take up too much time here, but if you're retrofitting, that's when you're in an issue of, if you've got a 100 kg roof, perhaps it's better off just to have solar panels on it than a green roof because of the statics. Now, it is possible to do a green roof with solar panels on 100 kgs, but really you need 120 kgs. But this is detail, but I'm sure Jan may want to compliment or disagree. I just, you know, it's a shared space, this is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know about the impact of green roofs, but what we hear is that there is a problem for solar deployment in general, because a lot of the buildings need renovation to carry the solar panel. There are numbers going around that say that 60% of the flat roofs and flat industrial roofs in Europe need a renovation to carry solar panels. I mean, it can be a small renovation or a big renovation. But when you have a stable roof, then you can do both. So when you have a roof that can carry the green part, then it can also carry the solar panel. So here we also have a synergy between the three solutions. One is the energy efficiency of the building, then the green, the environmental benefit, and then the solar panel. You have to bring them together.
I have a follow-up question on this, Jan, to you, because you seem to support. You clearly said the two can go hand in hand. How does the solar industry envisage the combination of green roofs with solar powers in practice? Who advises the building owners or the manager that has to decide how to lay this down when the building is renovated or built, and make sure that both are installed together in the best possible way for that specific building? And Dusty, if you want to follow up, I will give you the floor.
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting question. So I mean, we are mostly talking about cities here, as far as I understand. You have a lot of residential residential buildings in cities, but also commercial buildings. I understand that many of the residential buildings are actually owned by commercial property owners who actually have the capacity to invest in consultants and to also use consultants for this. But indeed, there's not really an awareness for these dual solutions neither among the citizens nor among the consultants that Dusty mentioned. So there's really a need for either awareness raising or policy-driven solutions. For example, what we see in Munich is that flat roofs in residential areas with a certain square meter roof space have to be equipped with green roofs. And I believe that for solutions that don't bring a direct financial benefit, these policy-driven solutions are actually necessary. For the solar installation itself, you can always argue that the citizens will want to make money from it. But with the green roof, which has a very indirect and more subtle effect, you have the citizens who have the, let's say, the psychological space and also the monetary freedom to invest in these solutions. But you have a lot of people who don't have this let's say, margin on room for action. And here you actually need dedicated policies or dedicated solutions to target them.
Thank you. Darcy, you want to complement that?
Yeah, I hope Jan does not like this, because it might not be. You were asking specifically who you go to. Well, I get involved in a lot of retrofit projects now, and Jan's quite right. A lot of the big corporates are looking to retrofit solar panels. I've told several of my big companies, big financial institutions, said, go to the green roof contractor first. Go to the green roof contractor first. And what happens, and I think, Jan, I hope you take this in the right way, is generally that people go, oh, the solar panels, it's sexy, it's sophisticated. We go to the solar guys because they know what they're doing. But if you're going to retrofit it into a green roof, or you want it with a green roof, it's better led by the green roof industry because they have modeling processes for wind loading and so and so. They understand the distance slightly better between the panels. But it's because solar seen as, dare I say it, sexy, they must be the really sophisticated people. And it's a very sophisticated process. But when you get to implementation, it's really got to be led by the green roof industry. And honestly, it's my experience over 15 years. And I hope, Jan, you don't mind me saying that, because I feel, No,
I can perfectly well see this.
Thank you both. One of a member of our audience, Christoph Tippmann, has a question, and maybe Luigi, you know the answer to that. How are innovative green tech startups supported by the EU or sustainability funds or similar initiatives? Do Do you have an answer to this question, or you or maybe Ciarán also has some ideas of how that could be done?
Thank you, Mariangiola. It is a good question that, in my view, is linked also to some of the discussion that we are having here on who can advise and to a certain extent, where are the skills to do these things and so on. I mean, I want to go back to probably to some of the things I said in my first intervention. We need regulatory policy framework, and the European Union has a big role to play in this respect. We need to get this. We need to land the EPBD with those provisions that are in the EPBD. We need to work on the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, Nature Restoration Law, and so on. We need to create certainty. We need to bring this discussion at another level, because green roofs are there, have been around for 4 decades. I mean, we have thousands of evidence, scientific articles about all the benefits of green infrastructure. But it didn't happen because it is perceived as a nice to have. It is not an issue of solar and green or other things can go together. They must go together because they deliver benefits and because we have to address crisis. There's no other way of thinking. If the sorry, it's a quite long point that I want to make here. But if we create the framework, the regulatory framework, and if we know that this is the direction where you go, then industry, local authorities, member states, experts, skills, then they start to come together, including, and I think I come to the question from the colleague, from participants, including finance and support for public and that can leverage private investments. The point is, and I already have seen in some work that I've done on cohesion policy, for example, before Ciarán mentioned Regio, I already see in some operational programs, in some documents of the European Commission, some references to make cities, to restore the natural water cycle in cities, make city permeable. But this is all part of this discussion, of this agenda that is shaping, that we are shaping here together. So, and that is money, that is funds, that is financing also for startup, for research. I've already seen in Horizon 2020, I see more and more calls concerning greening infrastructure, greening cities, new technique, new methods, new methodology, and so on. I mean, to cut a long story short, I think it is super important that the European lawmaker define an enabling framework to advance, and is convinced so that everyone can invest into this agenda in the next years, decades. I think this is not something that we will do in the short time, but we need to start from somewhere at one point.
Thank you. Follow up to Ciarán. Yes, you want to intervene?
I was going to.
For you, so go ahead.
I was going to agree with everything that Luigi said there. I mean, the Horizon program is Europeans' huge investment in research and indeed startups. So Horizon is a very good first port of call on this. But there is also a lot happening with the new European Bauhaus. There is a recognition of innovation and excellence. So if you simply Google New European Bauhaus, you'll find out more information about that. And then just in terms of green startups, there is a website, mygreenstartup.eu, which is a focal point for some information about green initiatives and startups. So there is quite a bit going on at an EU level, but then obviously at a member state level, at a country level, there's a lot of European funding used to encourage green innovation within those countries, and within wherever you live, you can find more information out about that.
Thank you. Yes, Luigi, you have a direct follow-up to that? And
no, Mariangiola, no, if I can, I wanted to say a couple of thoughts about something before. I think one of the colleagues mentioned a direct or indirect economic benefits of, and I wanted to say something on this because there are direct economic benefits from green roof. I want to use another example, which is also an example of mainstreaming, Ciarán, very important also for some discussions that needs to be within trialogue, within discussion, negotiations. If we take the Energy Efficiency Directive, and in particular, we take the Energy Efficiency First Guidelines, some of you might remember these documents produced by the European Commission. One of the first examples of application of energy efficiency first principle is green roofs. Why? Because green roof on top of buildings helps with energy efficiency. This is especially for cooling, passive cooling methodologies, but also because by treating rainwater where it falls on roof, you reduce through obviously improving the retention and detention of roofs, you reduce the quantity of stormwater to be treated at the level of urban wastewater treatment plant. Yeah. This is a lot of money. This is not. This is in the electricity bill of municipalities, because many of the utilities are owned by cities. This is huge. This is a huge percentage of the bill. We could reduce that bill. That is a direct economic benefits for local authorities. Local authorities could reinvest that money into greening our cities, which means making people happier, living better. And it is again, more than 3-4 decades of scientific journal demonstrate the benefits of green infrastructure on mental health, on the quality of life for citizens. So it is a win-win-win-win. I don't know how many wins altogether. Thank you, Mariangiola.
Thank you. Dusty and Jan, I saw that you both want to intervene, but there's a comment from one of the participants that I think might be also a good contribution to this debate. And if you allow me, I would like to read it out to you. Jan Rappan says that more than 40% of the European residential buildings were built before the year 2000. And so each of them needs regular maintenance. And this means that these roofs are a net expense to their owner. On the other hand, the causes of urban heat highlands cannot be solved with a single pills. And so green roofs and solar PV roofs are not the only solution. And we need renewable to reduce the energy demand for rainwater harvesting. These are interconnected containers. So on one hand, green roofs and solar roofs together, it's part of a solution, but it cannot be the single pill that solves heat island problems and other issues. And I think you all agreed on this. So I would imagine that the follow-up question is, how do we make this happen so that we're not focusing only on one solution that we know it's working, but it's not the only solution? And this is a question to all of you, but Dusty and Jan, I think you wanted to intervene before, so please go ahead, Dusty. You're muted.
Very, very quickly, I'll answer that. It's the analogy that we use about trees. Right tree in right place. Wrong tree in wrong place is wrong tree in wrong place. So, when you're dealing with a city, some roofs are going to be better for green roofs. Some roofs are actually not going to be very good for green roofs. So we've got to be sophisticated that some very lightweight roofs, which are industrial sheds, that can take solar, might not have green roofs. I'm 30 years, everybody knows that I'm passionate about getting green roofs everywhere, but sometimes it's just not the best place to put them, And so I think we need to have sophisticated thinking about that. Generally, people go, oh, we need lots of solar, so let's do all solar, or we need lots of nature, so let's do all nature. And we've got to be a little bit more sophisticated. But Jan, I'll let you take the stage now.
Yeah, also first to complement to what Luigi said about the financial benefit, what also our manufacturer also of the mounting system also said is that there are cities where you can actually have lower bills for your wastewater if you have a green roof. And that would be a way to create a financial incentive for having green roofs. Which would be important, of course. And on the question on how this can be made possible, so from my perspective, there has to be a policy. This has to be a policy-led solution, just because transitioning and changing the minds of so many people will not be possible in the short time period that that is required for these changes. It is often that these policies are perceived as too strong, over ambitious at the time that they're being discussed. But when they're actually implemented and people got used to them, nobody will ever wonder why they were there. So yeah, I would see here really a strong policy-driven solution. Also because, yeah, let's stop here.
Thank you. Policy-driven solutions, Ciarán, my question to you, let's go back to the EPBD and what we just discussed about how necessary is the integration of green infrastructure provisions in the directive. What are your expectations for the trilogues about this, or your hopes maybe, because maybe we don't know yet exactly what you can expect about maintaining and maybe even improving the provisions that are now in the directive about this, because it seems to me that we have to start from somewhere, and why not the EPBD?
Well, I think it's challenging. I think the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, it's a file that people either love or hate. Sometimes we call these things a Marmite issue in politics, that English spread. People either love it or they hate it. So it will be quite daunting and quite challenging to get this directive across the line. My hunch is it would be challenging to increase the ambition at trialogue, because I think the Council of Ministers is not very ambitious on this file, and the Commission, I don't think we're going to see an increase in ambition, and I think we will see attempts to water down what we achieved in Parliament. So I don't want to be hugely optimistic. And I think it's really important that we work at every level of governance, at a European Union level, but at a national, regional, and local level. And Dusty, earlier on, he briefly mentioned the planning system in the UK. I'm trained as an urban planner, and I know that city development plans, as we call, or development plans, as we call them in the UK and Ireland, they have a hugely important role in facilitating green infrastructure, and particularly permitting that can reduce certain fees or charges if there are green roofs, or if there are blue roofs with photovoltaics, or even white roofs to kind of reduce the urban heat island effect. I think a lot of this can happen at a local government level, and really we want to join up all levels of government in what we do. So that's a long way of saying, I don't think we will increase the ambition significantly through the trialogue process. And I would encourage you all to just put a bit of pressure on your own country to seek higher ambition where you can, or indeed through the Brussels bubble, through the lobbying mechanisms that are available there.
Thank you very much. We only have 5 minutes left, so I wanted to maybe give the opportunity to everyone to add one last thought. So Dusty, I see you're raising your hand. Please go ahead.
A quick point on what Ciarán said in terms of London. It wasn't the UK I was referring to. London's government was invented in 2000, so it's a new government for the future. And that's why it's been quite successful. It's not because I'm a Londoner, it's because of that. What I want to end up is it's a question to Ciarán, it might be controversial, or to the Commission, is, how does the solar industry, the solar thermal industry, and the green roof industry come together to do innovation? Because I was chatting to Luigi yesterday. There are roofs in Spain that are not being irrigated because they're by the coast and the rain, the sea breeze comes in. If they had solar panels on them, I've calculated they'd probably be making 3 liters of water per panel. The industry at the moment is selling, but it's not got time to actually come together to look at how we can create innovative solutions to meet across the board. That's empirical. It doesn't need research. It needs the industry to come together and collaborate. That's my final point. Yeah.
Thank you, Dusty. Jan, as a representative of the industry, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I can only agree, but to add that we see increasing amount of solutions that combine nature and solar panels. So, for example, on the utility scale solar plants, we have an increasing amount of agrivoltaics, just given the growth expectations that we have to solar panels. We will need so much land that is now either used for agriculture or for nature. So there will be conflicts for land. And so the solar industry really sees the solution of double usage of land. So agrivoltaics, installing solar panel on top of agricultural land. And this is of course the front runner on the big land-based solutions, but there will be an increasing awareness also coming on the building segment. But maybe to accelerate this process, it might make sense that the relevant interest groups come together and start discussing with each other.
Thank you. Ciarán, a final point from you?
Yeah, I mean, Dusty's point, how do we get the green and solar to work together? I think Horizon programs can spearhead innovation, as can the new European Bauhaus. But it is a fair point that the Repower EU plan, which came out of the war in Ukraine, said we want solar PV and we want heat pumps. There was nothing in there about green roofs. So I think we have to constantly fight the corner on green roofs. I think we have to make all these points about stormwater drainage reduction, about biodiversity. It is this joined up thinking that I find quite frustrating at the EU level, because I think we are quite siloed. DG Ener, DG Move, DG Klima. To get them all to talk to each other is a real challenge. Yeah. Research projects can help on this, but Dusty, I think you hit the nail on the head. We've got to get everybody to talk to each other, and I think we need to do more of that.
Thank you very much. Luigi, final word from you?
Yeah, thank you, Mariangiola. I think the presence of Jan, the presence on this point, the presence of Jan here, the presence of colleagues from solar thermal industry yesterday in Ghent, I think is showing that this dialogue is started. I think there is already. I mean, let's also look at the little achievement that we are having now. So I think my hope is, Jan, that we continue this discussion. You mentioned there's a lot of attention that you are paying to the agrivoltaic agenda. I think is that kind of thinking that needs to be also brought at a level of urban dimension. I think this is because you are already working on that, and I think it is the urban element that is missing, where there is a huge potential for solar energy deployment. So I hope we can continue along that line. And then the first point for Ciarán, I think on your point on the negotiation. So there is a few. I mean. I think this holistic, systemic approach can be helpful in discussions to say, guys, it is happening, it is going on. There is a very interesting also guidelines produced by DG Klima on the adaptation, on the capacity of adaptation of buildings, that is full of examples of integration of green infrastructure. So another very important resource for knowledge, for arguments in favor of this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to you, our speakers, and to all the participants who sent their question. Apologize to those who did not get an answer to their questions, but I think that was a lively debate as from the perspective of a researcher organization working on building. It was really also eye-opening for us and how our research can actually support this conversation. I think it's really, really important. Now it's 11 o'clock. Our session is ended on time. The next session of the European Green Infrastructure Day starts at 11:15. Participants can stay on Zoom while waiting. And the second session is about greening urban spaces to help restore nature in Europe. Thank you again to all of you for your participation and the lively debate, and have a good day. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot.
Bye.